Go.
In what ways is discrimination experienced today? In 1877, the withdrawal of the last U.S. troops from former Confederate states marked the death of Reconstruction and the birth of the Jim Crow era. In subsequent decades, southern states would adopt numerous measures to codify the exclusion and suppression of black people. The end of the Civil War led to an idea of Reconstruction which gave rights to former slaves as well as rapidly changed the political landscape from allowing these former slaves to gain offices of power such as the House of Representatives and as senators. Although, and this is able to be attributed as a factor to the increase of equality during this time, although as time went on and Reconstruction ended, the Civil War, and as Reconstruction ended, the And as Reconstruction ended, the level of black representation did increase, although over time Jim Crow laws were instituted in places to remove these rights. This leads to a time often called the Jim Crow era. This was a time significantly prominent with its racial biases as seen by not just the Jim Crow laws, but also the social hierarchy it created, as it created rules and customs especially meant to remove any acknowledgement of black Americans as equals. This includes oftentimes inciting mass violence in the form of lynchings against these communities, oftentimes disproportionately affecting the communities of color. This leads to the Civil Rights Movement, headed by many historical figures such as Martin Luther King, Mary White Orrington, and many more. These figures led protests against segregation that was supported through the Jim Crow laws. This led to the Selma Montgomery marches, which this painting is depicting. The moment this is showing is when the police attacked the protesters as they were passing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where they were assaulted with tear gas and billy clubs. This is also known as Bloody Sunday within the news, and this event did gain national attention and bring support for the Voting Rights Act, becoming law in 1965. It is important to mention the history of this painting as it symbolizes a great act of violence performed on black Americans due to long-standing bias and unfair institutions, and this is also able to be interpreted as a hope for the future, as it is a reminder of how much we've already progressed and how much we can progress. The money changers have fled from their high seats in the temple of our civilization, and we may now restore that temple to the ancient truths. The measure of the restoration lies in the extent to which we apply social values more noble than mere monetary profit. This quote from FDR, America's president during the Great Depression, shows a very clear and strong message that he intended to inspire unity and correct the issues caused by the previous government. In this quote, he describes the money changers fleeing the high seats, and the money changers most likely being the previous government officials, and then later states that the measure of restoration lies in the extent to which we apply social values, more noble than mere monetary profit. His message upon stating this was twofold, as he set up with the populace a clear idea of how to fix the issue at hand, as well as him describing the need for a proper community in order to properly heal the nation. This message is important to keep in mind, especially with his reference to the Constitution and Bill of Rights through the phrase ancient truths, in which it is meant to ingrain the rights of the American people against the government, as well as keep the people united. Historically, there have been many examples of inequality within society, although there are still many people who believe there is still inequality present today, with 33% of all people surveyed saying there is major bias and inequality still experienced in some way. This survey also shows that of all the people surveyed, 74% feel they were at least experiencing some form of discrimination. This shows how there's still a divide within society that is not easily repaired, and this divide within society is further visible through the view of the justice system, which shows how on average black people receive 20% longer prison sentence than their white counterparts, and the reason this is due to the over-policing and the many discriminatory policies enacted by the government, such as Ronald Reagan's war on drugs, which did end up affecting people of color disproportionately versus others. The income gap experience demonstrates yet another divide within society, as it illustrates yet another injustice experienced by the average family, with them unable to achieve the same experience or privileges due to their work being valued as less, as well as emphasizing how they are often not at positions to afford higher education either, as the Supreme Court has ruled that affirmative action is unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment, and in which this could lead to underrepresentation for people of color, as many of their families might be unable to afford it, as previously seen due to the due to the wage gaps. The disparity in earnings shown is yet again showing the undervaluing of minorities within the nation as a whole, with them earning less than their white counterparts. This is also, once again, ties into how it becomes more likely for these communities to be unable to attain higher education due to the fact that, on average, a black person's work is valued at 24 cents less than a white man's work. This chart shows a clear trend where African American citizens are imprisoned at a higher rate than other races. As previously stated, this is not only due to over-policing of these communities, but also from the poverty rate being higher among these communities, as it then leads to a mindset of difficulty and creates a hard-to-accomplish goal, which is much easier attained by others. And another point to be made is that the white imprisonment rate has remained nearly consistent throughout this. My solutions to these problems is minority activist groups. The Equal Justice Initiative is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1969 by Brian Stephenson, and he created this group with the purpose of giving legal representation to those illegally convicted, abused in jails or prisons, and also those unfairly sentenced. They promote solving racial inequality for the aid of the community around them, and is an activist group that helps solve issues created by America's racist past. The NAACP is an activist group that stands up for the rights of minorities in regards to the federal government's actions, such as lobbying with them for the protections of African Americans in federal programs like Medicare and much more. Thank you for your time, and this is my citations.